My guest today, Anthony Wise Jr., I am so excited to talk to you because you are really leading what I consider to be sort of a revolution in community college, and it's happening right here in East Tennessee. You are the president of Pellissippi State Community College, so thank you for joining me. Let's first start by getting to know you. We know about Pellissippi, but we're going to get to know more.
All right.
But let's talk about you. How did you start this journey into education?
You know, it really started late in my career as an undergraduate student. I had majored both in history and business economics. I thought I was going to get a job as a banker or a financier, and started doing some interviewing and things like that. And I was like, I'm just not feeling it. I mean, this just doesn't feel like who I am. My dad had bought me a book called Do What You Love, The Money Will Follow. I don't know if he thought about what the consequences of that would be, but I went to talk to one of my major advisors and said, hey, I really think I would like to explore the possibility of teaching. And he recommended I take some time and go to graduate school in history and see if that was a career path for me. And that's kind of what started me down the path of thinking I might like to move into the world of education, first as a teacher.
What was it like being a teacher? What were your early days? Because education's changed so much.
Yeah, it has.
Over the years.
I loved being in the classroom. I had an experience to teach some while I was a PhD student at the University of Tennessee. Had served as a graduate teaching assistant for some of my professors, and then had a chance to teach some of my own classes. I got closer to finishing my doctoral degree. And as I was wrapping up that work, a friend who worked at Pellissippi State happened to drop something off and say, hey, Pellissippi State needs somebody. They've got a professor going on sabbatical. They're looking for somebody to teach for the spring semester. And I thought, why not? I didn't think of it, I would be here very long. I always wanted to go back and teach at a sort of small private liberal arts school like the one where I had been educated. But really kind of fell in love with the community college during that semester, and fell in love with teaching and being in the classroom and, you know, talking about history and trying to help students develop a historical understanding.
Was it hard at first?
It wasn't hard. It was hard at first. One, sort of being the last person into the group, you're kind of given whatever's left in terms of the schedule.
Yes.
So you might have multiple preparations. You might be teaching one class at 8 o'clock in the morning and finish the day off with a night class at 6 o'clock in the evening. But it was a great challenge, and really enjoyed that experience of trying to build a community inside the classroom, and build that emotional connection with students, which would, I think, helps foster learning.
So then my question, after being in the classroom and now being the president of the community college, do you think that has kind of really helped how you shape the decisions you make and what you expect of professors at the school?
Certainly, I try to carry that experience forward from the classroom, right? One of the reasons I decided to go, and my initial response to moving to administration was no way. Why would anybody want to do that? The magic happens inside the classroom. It's where you get a chance to interact with students, and you get to see that visual confirmation that they're learning something, they understand something, they're going to be able to carry that forward with them. So when my supervisor came in and said, look, I'm going to step down as department head. I think this would be a good step for you in your journey. I was like, yeah, you're crazy. Why would I want to give this up in order to go to what seemed like an endless series of meetings and tasks and other kinds of responsibilities? But ultimately what I decided was, if nothing else, it was a learning experience, right? And if I learned nothing other than my place was in the classroom, then I would have an opportunity to learn that. And two, it was an opportunity to influence a larger number of students. I wouldn't be directly involved with them in the classroom, but I have a chance to shape a department or a program or eventually the academic program at Pellissippi State. And that's kind of what started my journey into administration. I've always tried to keep in mind what it's like to be in the classroom, because really the faculty are the heart of a community college and a place like Pellissippi State. And I've always tried to remember how important students are to the institution, and that light bulb moment or that connection that they make with us through the classroom or through their experiences at the college is so critical to their long-term success, and tried to live that out as the leader of the institution.
I feel like over the last few years, you all have really focused on the student experience and supporting students. Do you find that when you were a professor, those one-on-one conversations, because you know those conversations are different when you're president versus when you're a professor.
They are.
Some of the backgrounds of the students and where they're coming from, because everybody carries something with them on their journey. Do you find that kind of helps shape, like, you know, we've got to help everyone. They're not starting all at the same line.
They are not, and that's probably one of the things I didn't understand when I started at Pellissippi State. I think I assumed that a lot of the people came into the institution with experiences similar to mine, right? They weren't all great students. And I was not a great student for a
Okay.
long period of time, and I try to share that with students whenever I get the opportunity. But I think one of the things that we learn, that I've learned and we've learned as an institution over the course of time, is that our students do have different needs and different perspectives, and we really need to create holistic support structures which allows us to best serve all of our students at Pellissippi State. We have an office called Student Care and Advocacy because we have students who are homeless, become homeless over the course of a semester, or have food insecurity, or can't pay their light bill. And we know that if we can at least help provide a connection to that kind of stability, it allows them to stay enrolled in school and continue making progress towards their degree. And those things are critically important. A lot of students walk away from community college not because they're not academically prepared, but because they have some sort of social or personal circumstance that interrupts their educational process. And we really want to see if we can provide the support that allows them to stay on that journey to completion.
How'd you become president?
I ask myself that a lot. I moved from faculty being department head of the liberal arts department. And it was about this time, probably 17 years ago now, our academic vice president announced his retirement, and I had just enough experience to say, you know what, I think I might like to see that, right? It was a chance to see the institution from another perspective, a perspective that not only required connections within the institution, but across the state through the Tennessee Board of Regents, inside the community a little more than I had been. And I thought, you know what, I'll throw my hat into the ring and see what happens there. And then I had probably just enough experience that when Dr. Alan Edwards retired in 2011 to say, you know what, I'd kind of like to see what it's like to be president of this institution. And it was really always with a commitment to the mission of the community college, right? We're an open access institution. We serve all. It doesn't matter if it's your first chance or your second chance or your third chance or your fourth chance and fifth chance. We're designed to be a place where opportunity is created. And to me, that's a powerful mission. And I've always felt like my personal identity was closely aligned with that mission, and nothing brings greater joy than seeing those students who have real obstacles on the path to success cross the stage at graduation and walk out into our community.
Do you feel like community college has been reimagined? I feel like it's a different, not vantage point, but it's seen differently than maybe 20 years ago versus now. Like, y'all are doing some things over there.
Yeah, so when I started at Pellissippi State 26 years ago, we'd get a lot of students who would just kind of walk through the door and say, hey, I'm just going to take a couple classes at Pellissippi State and then I'll go on to UT. I mean, that was, as an advisor, I heard that so many different times. And what we're really trying to do now is think about the connection between our local school systems, whether it's Blount County and Alcoa and Maryville City Schools or Knox County Schools. There's some great work going on there. How do we align with things like 865 academies? We're creating our own career communities. So a student might come in and say, I don't know exactly what I want to major in, but I know it's in the area of media technology. So we get them in the creative arts career community and make sure that we have conversations about what that looks like and what kind of connections we need to make with them as they think about internship and placement and what their resume really needs to look like if they're going to be successful. So we're really trying to think about what the whole student experience is and what needs to happen inside the classroom and on the campus and in the community, so we graduate folks who are going to make a great contribution to Knoxville and the greater region.
Why is there such a focus on students? I know every year I do the luncheon with you all,
yeah.
And we have such a good time where we start strong,
yeah.
finish
stay
strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
But why is there such an emphasis on making sure that students are supported so they can then go out and be successful?
Yeah, I mean, our mission calls for us to be transformative for the individual who's at Pellissippi State and for our community as a whole. And students are the lifeblood of the institution. We're a community college. We serve this community. We serve the people of this community. So it's important we understand who our students are and where they come from and where they want to go, and what kind of connections and relationships we need to have to make sure that they're successful, not just academically at Pellissippi State, but when they move out into the world after graduation.
What's been the hardest part of your job?
The pandemic was no fun, and neither are, there are times where it gets stressful. We've been really fortunate in Tennessee to have great support from the General Assembly and the governors over the course of the last really the entire time I've been in serving as president. Challenges associated with people can be difficult. And when we look, sometimes we look at our numbers and say, we're not doing this very well. Try not to take it personally, but say, we need to figure out a way of serving our students and our community better, and sit down and have a conversation and see how we're going to move forward.
Let's talk about expansion.
Yeah.
You just had the Ruth and Steve West Workforce Development Center. Why was that center needed, and what are you all looking to do for the East Tennessee region with it?
Yeah, so the Ruth and Steve West Workforce Development Center is really designed for Blount County and that surrounding region. If you look at some of the great connections that have made by the Blount Partnership with growing existing employers like Denso, and then attracting new employers, making sure you had that strong, technically educated workforce base that could stay in the community and take up these jobs. There's an enormous amount of demand there. So we focused on things that were needed by local and business and industry. So that includes things like electrical and mechanical engineering, computer science, cyber defense, even things like culinary and hospitality. It gave us an opportunity to partner with our colleagues over at TCAT Knoxville, and they offer things like welding, and will eventually offer pipe fitting, making sure just we're as in tune and as responsive as we can absolutely be to the local economy, because that's part of our mission as well.
So all these things take money.
Yes.
all of these expansions
They do.
And so forth. Everything I've seen over the last few years, you all really haven't struggled per se with fundraising. I didn't say it wasn't a lot of work. That's not what I said.
You did not.
But I feel like you all have done a really good job of kind of like exceeding some of those goals that you set. Why is that? Like, how are you all able to make that happen?
I think it starts with great people, and we've got a great team in the Pellissippi State Foundation. I think they think a lot. We've got a great foundation board, folks that are willing to serve the institution. I think they understand our mission and our values as an institution. They know how important we are to the local economy, and they help really build and tell that story. So when we go out and talk about the need for the Ruth and Steve West Workforce Development Center, it's really built around the lives that we can change if we have this facility in Blount County. We're getting ready to start a project at Hardin Valley where we talk about the changes that we need to make in terms of renovating some of the facilities there. It's about ultimately how does that impact students, and then how by impacting the lives of students that it impacts our community. And our foundation board have done just such a great job. The goal in our last capital campaign, which ended the week before the pandemic hit, was $10 million, and we raised 15. And you don't do that if you don't.
Wait, so not 10 million was the goal. We raised 11. Okay?
Yeah.
You raised $15 million.
Yeah. And you have to have great people leading that work, and you have to have a great board that supports that work, and we certainly do at Pellissippi State.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
One of the things I was looking over, like some of your accomplishments
Yep.
there at the school's accomplishments, even study abroad. I don't think of community college students and study abroad programs. At least that's not what I remember growing up in Miami with the community college there. Kind of talk about the mission of getting these kids to just see the world.
Yeah, so we were fortunate. We were just named by Open Doors as the community college who had the most students who did study abroad experiences for the last year, and we've been number one once before. We've always been about in the top 5 or so for the last decade. Pellissippi State's home to the Tennessee Consortium for International Studies, and what that does is coordinate study abroad programs for the 13 community colleges and a few other institutions throughout Tennessee. One of my biggest regrets as an undergrad was I did not participate in a study abroad experience, despite the fact that it was available. I just didn't feel like it was. I had a lot of the same trepidation many of our own students did. Right?
Yes.
I'd never really been far from home. Didn't really understand how things work. I wasn't really confident in my ability to sort of navigate a different culture. And Tensis, which was started by my predecessor, Alan Edwards, with the support of the Board of Regents, really focuses on saying, community college students, they work for international corporations, right?
Oh, that's right.
Their jobs are connected to these. We need to find about ways of exposing them to different cultures, allowing them to do their study in a different environment to enhance their learning. It's a high impact practice. So we usually have about 22 programs that run, well, now we're going pretty much year round. We'll have some programs that go out in March. Most of them go in May, June, and July, and they're 3 to 5 week programs. And you generally take one course that's towards your degree in a location overseas. I'll say personally, having had the opportunity to travel with students abroad is really one of the most powerful experiences of my career. Twice I've traveled with choral groups from Pellissippi State to France and to Normandy, and on one of those occasions our choir performed at the American Cemetery. It's such an emotional place to be, and I'm sure the choral director at the time would have said, you know, it was not the most technically perfect performance, but it wasn't because the emotion was so raw. And just to see those young people developing that understanding and seeing those crosses and stars scattered across that hillside on the Normandy coast, and to have them come to an understanding of what had happened at a place like that, and to have an emotional response to that. I mean, I'll never forget that experience on the beaches of Normandy with those young people.
What other interactions with students have you had that kind of stick with you? I think we all have, no matter what your career is, you have those moments like, I remember that interaction, I remember that moment. What are some of yours since you've become president?
You know, there are a number. I mean, I do try to build a relationship with students. It's hard as president. I mean, I've got a list of meetings. I try to get around on campus and walk. I work at each of our campus locations a full day on a regular basis, just so that they know that I'm their president, right?
Yeah.
Even if they're at the Magnolia campus and my office is not there, but I want them to know that I care about them and I care about their success. I was out at Magnolia Avenue last week, and I just had a student who came up to me and told me a story, you know, during the pandemic, and I vaguely remember, you know, you helped me get a computer, and that helped me stay in school, and now I'm back, and, you know, it's just a reminder that while I have like sort of a large responsibility for the organization as a whole, I still take that individual responsibility to serve students when and where I can very seriously. We've just hired a young woman in our records office who is a Pellissippi State graduate. Her name is Raven, and she's working on our records office, and she brought up her phone and she goes, "Do you remember taking this picture with me at commencement a few years ago?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm so glad you have that," you know, because you know, it's just an honor to be a small part of their lives and for them to feel like I'm a part of their success. And I mean, that's really what keeps me going. Tomorrow night I'll walk through the halls before we start the commencement ceremony, and every one of those students will be able to say, hey, these are the 2 or 3 people at Pellissippi State that really helped me get here tonight, and these are the 2 or 3 educational experiences that really fired me up and made me see my education through to this particular point. And I mean, it just fills my heart.
Yeah, yeah. What there are going to be, you know, a lot of parents watching who may not have students that are just yet ready to graduate, but we're, you know, on that path.
Yeah.
What do they need to know? What are you all seeing over there that students are lacking, or if you had that magic ball, you could go, I wish I could do this for everybody, where they're ready to go?
You know, reading is so important. I know there's a lot of focus on making sure that students in our local school systems can read by 3rd grade. So I would say if you're a new parent or a young parent, read to your children every chance you get. Encourage them to be readers throughout their lifetime. That's really what's going to set them up for whatever the success or whatever path they follow, whether it's a path into the workplace after high school, or to a TCAT or a community college, or an academic path at Pellissippi State, or into, I mean, that strong base of reading really provides a strong base and strong opportunity for learning. And then as they move into high school, one of the state of Tennessee has really done exceptionally well over the last few years is expand dual enrollment opportunities. So you can get an opportunity to start down your college path and explore some things while you're still a high school student. And I think that's important. You kind of figure out some things about yourself and what you need to do and how well prepared you are to take that step to post-secondary education.
What would you say is your biggest success so far? What are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of?
It's got to be an accolade or a moment.
You know, what I'm most proud of, you know, I mean, tomorrow night when I stand on stage and shake hands, that's what I love more than anything else. That's what I'm most proud of, is to be part of an institution which creates opportunities for student success. And, you know, the faculty recommend those students for graduation, and we have our Student Affairs Division certifies them, but I'm the person that gets to shake their hands and say, congratulations, job well done. And I don't know all of our students, but when I see those that I recognize their face, or I know their name and I know their story, it really just fills me up.
You know, we talked earlier about reimagining college, and you all recently received the $2.2 million from the U.S. Department of Education to really look at amping up that college experience. What are you all looking to do?
So part of it is how we help make students successful transitions, and that includes better relationships with our high schools, more intentional conversations about a choice of career study. When I started at Pellissippi State, we had these large sort of registration. Students would show up a day or two before classes started and say, hey, I think I want to go to college this fall, and that's really not the best way to start. So we're really trying to start with, we've got Tennessee Promise applications that are due in the fall, and financial aid applications that are due in the spring, and working with students as they move towards graduation. You're trying to have a conversation about, all right, let's think seriously about your career pathway, and are there some things that we can do ahead of time where we can affirm that choice, or maybe learn that that's not the right choice. I mean, maybe you want to shadow in a hospital one day and you find out, oh yes, I want to be a nurse or a healthcare professional, or if you're like me, I can't even watch ER without getting a little squeam.
Listen,
so that's not my.
I don't do well with any of that.
I can go call for help, but I cannot provide assistance in the medical. So it's really being intentional about those transitions, and intentional about creating what we're calling now a student success team. So every student having a success coach, every student knowing who their academic advisor is, every student having a career mentor, because we know once they're ready to move on, whether that's to a four-year institution or into the workforce, they need somebody to help make those connections and to think about it, what it means to be a professional. I mean, I never really had anybody teach me those kind of things, but it's important for our students to know this is how you network. This is what you do at a business luncheon. You don't just go in and sit down and wait for them to serve you the salad and for Tirsa to take the mic and start emceeing the event. You need to look and say, oh, I need to make this connection. Oh, there's a business partner potentially. I need to go speak with that person. Or there's my mayor. I'm going to go say hello. I mean, how do you build those relationships? Because ultimately, it's not just what you know. It's partly who you know and what your network is.
Who knows you?
Yes, exactly. That's going to build your success. And so I've tried to do some of that for students. So occasionally on events, I'll invite students to come with me and say, this is a community event. This is your opportunity to make some connections when you move into the professional world. This might be expected of you as part of your job. And so just trying to think holistically about that student experience, the transitions in and out, and giving students every chance they can to be successful in the long run.
That's huge. I mean, I had a mentor that poured into me, and I feel like I avoided a lot of mistakes because she had already whispered in my ear, don't do that, do this.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to be doing this next.
Yes.
Let's get started. I mean, it's just...
Yes, it's just a big...
Yeah.
It's so important, right? And we don't think about it a lot of times. We're like, and again, I think back 25 years ago, it was, all right, here's the 20 courses you need in order to get 60 credit hours so you can move on to the next step. And it's really trying to think what else can go into that as part of the Pellissippi State experience in terms of coaching, advising, and mentoring, extracurricular activities that will support your growth and development as a person.
Yes. So what do you like outside of work? What do you do? What's a weekend like, or what's your hobby? Because it can't be all work and education.
It's not, and I've really tried to be intentional over the course of and of course it didn't always work out this way. I tried to go to ball games and dance recitals and the events for my children while they were growing up as much as I possibly could. I tried to be home when I was home and not work at home, and again, sometimes it's hard to do. Love to travel, which is good because our children are scattered all over the world. It feels like to visit my home in South Carolina. Love photography, and then one of the things I love about music, about Knoxville, is its live music scene. We've got so many great concert venues here, everything from Thompson Bowling to the Tennessee and the Bijou and the Laurel and everything in between. So,
are you out? Am I going to see you out dancing at a live
I'm
event?
not going to see me dancing, but you might see me tapping my toes in the corner. But just enjoy being here and experience what the great things this community has to offer. So I like to take photos. I share them a lot. I don't think I've lost too many Facebook friends because I'll post 100 photos I've taken.
I do the same. I bird. None of my friends bird, but I'm like, you all are going to love these bird pictures. I've got new stuff this week. Here we go.
So just try to be away, be outdoors. We live in a beautiful part of the world, and try to continue learning. My wife and I went to Chicago recently, and we'd go to a museum and go to a play and have a nice dinner and try to learn while we're traveling and seeing how we can continue to grow and develop.
I love it. And last, do you ever reflect on your career and your path to where you are today and think, I am positively influencing East Tennessee.
I do hope that and think that. I try to be humble about it. I never would have expected this, growing up in South Carolina. I tell my students I was not a good student. This was not the journey I was on when I graduated from high school. But I think one of the things about my experience is eventually I figured out you have to take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you, that there are people who will be there that will help you. And then you'll have more and more choices to make about ultimately who you are and what you want to be. And I've been so blessed and so fortunate to have this opportunity to develop in Knoxville and East Tennessee, and it's been a great place to live and work and raise a family, and hopefully have a positive impact upon the folks who come through Pellissippi State and move out into our community and do great things right here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Anthony Rice Jr., President, Pellissippi State, you are absolutely wonderful. Keep doing great things.
Thank you, Tish.